Do you struggle to get that first idea out of your head and into the door? Or maybe starting a track feels easy, but finishing feels impossible? Well, today I'm going to share my 3-point framework for starting tracks that practically beg you to finish them. I know this will work for you because it's worked for me. Over 20 years of producing, releasing records, and teaching thousands of music producers. And before we start, for more free track finishing tips, sign up to my newsletter, link below. So let's start with that crucial first sound, the first thing you load up in your door. Think of it like this. It's like when you go to watch something on Netflix and you're scrolling away for 20 minutes, you can't find anything to watch, so you just give up and go to bed. Well, it's exactly the same when your first sound in your project is flat or uninspiring. You're doomed before you've even started. But when that first opening sound you start with has direction and energy and potential, suddenly you're 3 hours deep, the track's basically done, and you can't believe where the time went. It's the equivalent of binge watching episodes of Breaking Bad, one after another, until 4 a.m. Anyway, that first sound either launches the whole idea forward, or it sets you up for a loop that goes nowhere. So for my starting sound, there are 3 characteristics I want it to have. Start with a sound with all 3 of these, and the track practically writes itself. Trait number 1 is rhythm. When I'm searching for that first sound, I want it to very quickly establish the rhythm and the groove of the track. And I'm not talking about drums either, and I'll explain why later. So here are some examples. For my track Badman, I started with this synth sequence. It's got this really clear, plodding kind of rhythm, and that sparked inspiration straight away. For this track called Thumps, I started with this vocal groove. Again, it's a really simple rhythm, but it ignited the fuse of inspiration. And then for this track, which is a bit more melodic, I started with a bubbling synth. It's actually quite complex in terms of rhythm, but that's what inspired me to lock in more regimented sounds around it. So when you start with a rhythmic sound, its groove immediately defines the track's pulse, and it becomes the backbone for everything. It gives you hints for how to program your drums, your bass follows naturally, and then your arrangement takes off from there. Okay, now let's look at trait number 2. Rhythm is great, but I also want my first sound to have character, flavour, personality. So what do I mean by this? Well, it's some aspect that makes you stop and go,
"Ooh, what's that?"
I bet you can name a sound from one of your favourite tracks that has a certain magic, a certain character to it. And let me know what that is in the comments. It could be anything interesting or ear-catching, like a warbly tape synth. Or a vocal chop with attitude. Or a creeping synth with a bit of swagger. Now, what character means is totally personal. This is where you inject your taste and create your own signature sound. For me and my Minosaur tracks, I love grit and noise and distortion. But your idea of character might be lush and clean and smooth, or it might be lo-fi and broken, or it could be razor sharp and digital. It's whatever resonates with you. And by starting with a sound that's got this magic and flavour baked into it, you're not just picking a starting sound, you're defining the sonic identity of the entire track. It sets the tone and the feel moving forward, and it will compel you to realise its potential by finishing it. And a quick reminder, there's way more to starting and finishing tracks than I can cover here. So to go deeper, sign up to my newsletter, link below. Okay, next, the third trait that I want my initial sound to have is the potential to evolve. Here's the thing, try and pile up too many layers vertically, and your track will be about as interesting as trying to explain to your grandma what sidechaining is at Christmas. Instead, having a few key sounds mutate through different sections, that is what the pros do. And if your first sound is begging you to grow it and change it over time, then it's impossible to get stuck in a loop, because you're going to want to realize its full potential and arrange it horizontally as quickly as possible. That's why I like to start with a sound that has scope to evolve and change over time. Back to my track Thumps. This is why I love using chopped vocal samples, because you can play different rhythms, you can play different slices of the sample, you can change the pitch, you can change the formant, you can open up effects. There are so many possibilities. So you can hear how much I change the vocal throughout the track. And back to Badman, this snaking synth begged me to evolve it and twist it in different ways. So, a static idea dies quickly. An evolving idea pushes the track forward, because you have to arrange it as quickly as possible to fulfill its potential. Okay, so that's rhythm, character, and evolution. Now here are some ways to take this even further. First, once you get comfortable with these three traits, you can apply them across two different sounds using call and response. My track Call and Answer was based on this. I paired a wobbly rhythmic bass with a synth motif that changes throughout the track. So maybe you want one sound that's quite static but rhythmic, and then you might have another sound that's maybe less rhythmic but it's constantly evolving and changing, and these two interplay off each other. But of course you can apply this to your style of music and whatever sounds you like to use. Okay, second, what about drums? Drums are a classic starting point, and I do start with them fairly regularly, but here's the thing, they have rhythm obviously, and they do have potential to evolve, but they don't really have that character that defines a track. They're generally the supporting act, not the headliner. So when I do start with drums, I'm also looking to add in a non-drum element, one that ticks all three boxes as quickly as possible. Because if I don't get that character in there, I end up looping a breakbeat and fiddling with an EQ for 3 hours. So third, what about pitch? You'll notice I didn't include pitch in my three characteristics, and that's because in electronic music, pitch is so variable. It depends on what kind of genre you make. You might make epic orchestral journeys, or you might make one-note techno bangers. So you can layer whatever pitch and melody you like on top of these three traits, depending on your genre. Now, once you've got that killer starting sound, how do you arrange it into a full track? Go and watch this video next to see 2 examples from my recent releases. And for more free track finishing tips, sign up to my newsletter, link below.